Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending. I'm Mitch Goldblatt. I am the president of the Congregation Or Shalom Men's Club, and I want to welcome everyone to Or Shalom this evening. Or Shalom has held debates for the first Selectmen for now 30 years, and we're very proud of that, and we're proud to have everyone here tonight, and to host Dan Fitzmaurice and James Zioli as they will give us their views. I want to thank the debate committee, consisting of Gary Michelson, Harvey Rems, and Seth Hollander, who have put together tonight's program. As everyone, or a lot of people here know, I am a candidate. I had nothing to do with the questions. I have no idea what the questions are going to be tonight. These people have put together this debate for everyone tonight. I would like to make a couple of shout-outs, though, first. Before I do that, I do want to say this is the second of 3 debates that are scheduled. The third debate is October 28th, hosted by the Milford Orange Times, and that'll be at High Plains Community Center. The shout-outs are as follows. Number 1, this podium that I'm at was donated by Steve Heckman recently. I want to thank Steve. This is Carol's podium in memory of his wife, Carol Heckman. The sign in front of the podium was donated by Nicole Papadopoulos of Midnight Creations, 200 Boston Post Road. We want to thank Nicole for her donation. And third, I want to thank Chris Kelly, who's in the back of the room, and OGAT. Orange Government Access Television is broadcasting tonight and recording this for people to see who can't be here tonight, and will watch this at a later time. At this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Gary Michelson, who will be your moderator and your host tonight, and take it from there. Gary, thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. As Mitch said, I'm Gary Michelson. I'm the actually former president here at Congregation Or Shalom, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's event. I will ask before we start if you could please either turn off or silence your cell phones so they don't disrupt us during the evening. That would be wonderful. Before we begin, I'd like all of you to please rise as you are able. And we are privileged tonight to have the Cub Scout Pack 922 that's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If the boys could make their way to the front with the flags. Like to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Great job, guys. Great job, guys. Excellent. So now I'd like to introduce our candidates. Probably they don't really need introduction. I'm sure you all know them, but we have Mr. James Zioli and Mr. Dan Fitzmaurice. And I know that each of you has members or a portion of members of the slate are in attendance this evening. So if you'd like to take a moment and introduce them one at a time, they can stand at their seat and be recognized. And I just ask in the interest of time if you could hold any applause till all the slate has been introduced. So Dan, if you'd like to go first, introduce your slate of officers.
Sure thing. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead, stand up. I'll read your names. For the Board of Selectmen, Mitch Goldblatt, PJ Shanley, and Erica Higgins. For the board, hold your applause. That's the first rule of order today. Board of Finance, Kevin McNabola, Byron Crosdale Jr., and Al Post. Plan and Zoning Commission, Gigi Cabrera, Doug Finchel, and Beth Marche. Town Clerk, James Carcano. Tax Collector, Mark Moyer. Of course, our constables, Santo Galatiotto Jr., Randy Thomas, and Byron, once again. Orange Board of Education, Kelly Billings, Lauren Gray, Josh Orlinsky, and Aaron Wilson. And the Amity Board of Education, Sean Michael Green, Jennifer Jacquet, and Ralph Margai. Now, please give them a round of applause for all their hard work.
Jim, if you'd like to announce your slate.
I shall. For the Board of Selectmen, we have John Carangelo, Bill Kraut, and Judy Smith. For the Board of Finance, we have Ajit Jain and Joe Nuzzo. For the Orange Board of Education, we have Jeff Kapp, Ronette James, Tatiana Messina Mullen, and Amanda Vargo Zapatka. For the Amity Board of Education, we have Christian Young and Megan Rebuse. For our town clerk, we have the ever-popular Mary Shaw. And for tax collector, we have Mr. Tom Hurley. For zoning, we have Kevin Cornell, Jay McGuire, and Oscar Parenti. And for our constables, we have Jody Damon, Mike Donadeo, Gary Palermo, and Jeff Vargo. And that is our slate for this year.
Thank you. Now I'm just going to briefly go over the ground rules for this evening. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and offer opening remarks. After the opening remarks, we'll proceed with the questions and we'll alternate who goes first and who gets to rebut. For each question, the initial responder will have 2 minutes, then there'll be a 2-minute allotment for a rebuttal, then the first respondent will get an additional minute for a counter rebuttal if desired. In fairness to each other, and with respect to our schedule, we ask that the candidates please respect the allotted time. And also for those in attendance, and we've never had this problem before because I know the town of Orange is generally nice people, but please refrain from making any outbursts that might disrupt this evening or delay the time. A list of questions for the evening were prepared in advance by a nonpartisan committee. They address a range of topics, including economic issues, community issues, and environmental issues. If time permits, we will allow audience members to submit questions, and I know several have been submitted already, so thank you. All the questions must be submitted on these 3x5 cards, and if you need one, just raise your hand and someone will bring them to your seat. The questions that I haven't received already will be vetted by Harvey Rems, who is, where's Harvey? Over to the side here. And just so you know, basically the lens that we use is for questions, are they fair and relevant, and they don't show favoritism to either party or either candidate. We've allotted 75 minutes for this evening's event, which should take us to about 8:15, and as we approach the closing time, we'll wrap up with the question portion of the evening, concluding by the candidates will each have closing remarks for 3 minutes each. Prior to the debate, we conducted a coin flip, which Mr. Zioli won, and he elected to go last in the closing remarks. So as a result, he's going to go first in the opening remarks. And during the question and answer, or during the question period, I should say, our timekeeper, Seth Hollander, who's located in the front, will hold up a sign when there's 30 seconds left, and then when time is up, he'll announce time. So without further ado, I will let Mr. Zioli open with his opening remarks.
Good evening. Thank you to Or Shalom, the Men's Club, and your entire congregation for making this a possible event. As Mitch said, it has gone on for 30 years. I've been here 20 years doing this, and it is always a well-run and nicely handled event, so truly thank you for that. I have been your first selectman of the town of Orange for 20 years. I was on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years prior to that. As well as doing that, I have sat on a panel at the state of Connecticut regarding police education and sensitivity training. After the George Floyd debacle, that was a mixed group of police and people in the social service world and senators and representatives and all. That was quite an honor. I also sat for 10 years as chair of the Connecticut Farmland Preservation Advisory Board of the Department of Agriculture, and we had a $65 million budget that we also got to work with there in preservation of farmlands across the state of Connecticut. And I have sat on multiple boards and commissions and event happenings right here within our own town that we all love so much, and I look forward to serving you for another 2 years. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. And again, my appreciation to the Shalom Men's Club for bringing us all together and for everybody who's watching at home. I also want to wish a happy Diwali for everybody who's celebrating this week. My name is Dan Fitzmaurice, and I'm honored and excited to be running to become your next first selectman. My wife and I are raising our 2 kids here who are 10 and 13. They're right there in that section over there. We absolutely love this town. We chose Orange because it has a small town feel, because it has excellent schools, because it has amazing outdoor spaces that we enjoy all the time. In fact, one of the first things we did was we enrolled our son into Orange Community Nursery School, and we built a chicken coop in our backyard to really lean into that small town feel we wanted to have for our family. That's why I again want to start tonight by thanking Mr. Zioli, because it is an incredible commitment and service to our town to be here in this role for 20 years. But tonight I'm going to focus on our future, because for the next 2 years, we cannot just stay the course. Stability without progress is not enough in 2025. My goal is very simple. I'm committed to making sure that our future is as strong as our past. I have a practical plan to do that, focused on stabilizing and reducing your property taxes as homeowners, but still maintaining and improving the services that matter to our families and retirees. Over the course of this conversation, I'll share a lot about those ideas, as well as how we can all contribute to that success together. I'm ready to take on this responsibility because I've done it before. I am an experienced executive who's led organizations through great challenges and change. In fact, I've been recruited by local, state, and national organizations when they needed steady, strong leaders. I have made budgets up to $100 million balance. I have helped teams get the best work done, and I've helped communities move forward through difficult times. And right now, I serve as the Director of Advocacy at United Way of Connecticut. In this role, I work with state and federal leaders from Republican Party and the Democratic Party to make it easier for families to pay their bills and get ahead. And before any of this, I was a teacher, so I absolutely understand the importance of our schools to the life of our community. But beyond any line in my resume, the most important thing I want you to know is about my values. The core value for me that I think about every day and guides all my decisions is service. That means leading with openness, respect, and accountability. I'm running because I believe Orange is ready for leaders like that, who listen, work together, and always deliver results. Thank you.
Thank you. On to our questions. So the first question, I'm going to direct it to Jim, and it relates to the budget. So how do you plan to find balance when dealing with increasing costs and higher interest rates, with wanting to maintain high levels of service for the town and address the needs for capital improvements, but at the same time not overburdening the individual taxpayer?
Fortunately, we have a great elected Board of Finance, which is the largest part of the yeoman's work. We also have a capital planning committee that all our departments submit their wants and needs, and that committee then evaluates what they are submitting and will rank those items from best to worst or not happening at all. Very important for that. It's also important that we can't borrow money when money is too expensive. When we bought Racebrook Country Club, we refinanced bonds at 0.99%. Racebrook Country Club's bond, since it was a business bond, was 2.04%. Currently, the rates for bonded money by communities, similar to ours, is 3.5% to 4%. So that adds up on a 20-year bond significantly. We work with the Board of Finance, with others, to make that the most possible. You can't search out and think you're going to search out grants and bonds that are going to balance a budget. It doesn't, they're not there. Your budget is developed starting in November, December, and that has to be ready to go to the voters for May. You don't know if you're going to get some sort of a grant or an award or something in between that time. You have to work with what you have. We've also faced the most unbelievable rises in real estate values that we've ever seen in the town of Orange, and the whole state, really, the whole region, which has really given everybody a boost in their largest asset, but it also, as we get demands, that mill rate comes down through your grand list, but you still need to balance what we are going to do with that money to be fair to your residents. I heard it.
Dan, same question to you.
Great, so the question was about balance in our town budget. And to start, our town has an $86 million budget. So there's a lot that we could do within that realm to make sure we're maintaining really strong schools, the very best services for our seniors, and pay for the things that are really important to the residents of our community. The issue that is staggering to me is that over the last 20 years, the value of our homes has increased threefold compared to the value of our commercial properties. And commercial property owners and homeowners pay property taxes. The issue now is that we as homeowners are paying the vast share of any and every budget increase, which I don't think is tenable anymore. And I know it's not tenable because, in fact, 1 in 5 households in our community right now is struggling to pay their bills tonight. So that's why it's such a priority for me to make sure that we stabilize the property taxes and reduce them over time for homeowners, because we want them to be able to live the best life in our community, and that's the lever we can help as Town Hall. The only way we can maintain our services then is by doing some new things. That's why we propose creating a municipal economic development department within our town hall. This is twofold important. For the one thing, they are going to aggressively pursue any outside grant funding that's available. Lots of it comes from the state, and that's our tax money that's actually just there waiting in Hartford to us to fill out the application, manage the project, and bring it down to pay for critical things we need. And then secondly, they're really going to focus on smart commercial development on the Post Road and Edison Road. All of those new dollars are going to help to offset future increases. So in short, we don't have a spending problem in our town. I want you to think about how we have a revenue problem, and we have a plan to fix that.
And Jim, if you'd like to make, you have a 1-minute rebuttal if you'd like.
Sure. Edison Road was a road that was on the books since 1962. We were able to receive, I think, $1.6 million through the omnibus bill with Rosa DeLauro, and Paul Grimmer and I were able to complete Edison Road so that you got the FedEx distribution center that's there, the VA center that is there, the commercial ink people that are there, Aurora Manufacturing that are food products people, and a couple others. There's one lot left on Edison Road, and it's owned by Pez, and they plan on expanding their footprint right now as we sit here and speak. You can't hope without knowing where they are, and those properties on the Post Road and all are owned by private people. I'm not taking private property from people to tell them that they need to enhance it to increase the taxes that they're going to pay on it.
Time? Set? Okay, sorry. Thank you. This next question to Dan also talks to the budget, but speaks specifically to education. Education is by far the largest line item in the budget, and the school system is often cited as a major draw for families moving into the area. So how do you plan to keep budget increases relatively in line while still maintaining a high level of quality and keeping the schools and facilities well maintained? And as it relates to education, can you discuss specific line items and/or programs you'd possibly like to see expanded or reduced?
Yes, I will try in 2 minutes. I've talked to thousands of residents, and I ask them all the time, what brought you to Orange? What keeps you in Orange? There's only one answer to that question, and it's our schools. That's our K-6 system and Amity Regional High School. So again, one way I talk about the revenue challenge we have is I say to somebody at the door, I say, we want to reduce your property taxes. We will not do that by cutting education funding. There's just no tenable way to do that. So that is, again, why it's so critically important that we focus on smart economic development options. Now, this new economic development department can work in collaboration with our school board and superintendents to make sure that any available grant dollars are being identified. Who the applicant is, we could determine at a later point, but I know for sure that many towns across our community, for example, applied for and received HVAC grants over the last couple of years. And I do understand that we applied for those. We didn't get it. But in my experience applying for grants, you apply again and again and again until you do. You make the plans so they're ready to go, so you could leverage those tax dollars from the state or other sources to improve our school facilities specifically. As far as line items go individually, I would really trust my colleagues on the Board of Education and the Amity Board to look at that. But just one thing from my background and experience that is important to me is not just what happens in the classroom, but what happens all throughout our community when it comes to young people. One topic of work that I do cover is youth disconnection. That's kids who are struggling to get through school and get a job. And that does involve our school system, but that also involves after-school activities. Our Youth Service Bureau is one of the greatest new things that we have in our communities. They're doing a fantastic job engaging teens and keeping them involved in things. So there's a lot we can do even around the school budget to make sure our young people are going to succeed in their life.
Thanks. Jim, 2 minutes?
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. So the education is by far the largest line item in the budget, and we know the school system is often what draws a major draw for families moving into the area. So how do you keep the budget increases relatively in line while maintaining high level of quality and keeping the schools and facilities well maintained? And then also related to education, are there specific line items and or programs that you'd either like to see expanded or reduced?
The education part of the town budget is around 62 to 63% of that total $86 million that was referred to. The Orange Elementary School system has done an outstanding job in their budgeting and has worked very hard, and I believe the Board of Finance has worked with them just about to the request as they submitted each of the last several years that I can recall. Amity does an outstanding job, too. I don't want Paul Davis back there to think that I'm saying they don't. But in the last budget that was completed, there was about a $2.3 million, I think, surplus. And there was a bond payment on there, mortgage payment, I'll call it, of about $1.5 million that faded off. It was not going to be in the next budget, which is the current budget they're in. So that's $3.8 million approximately. Could be a little bit more or less than that. However, that 3.8 stayed in that budget as they formulated the new budget. That didn't go away with zero-based budgeting. It stayed there. And then they added to that. So it was, as Dan said previously at an earlier debate, that was the smallest increase in the region. Well, it was the smallest increase in the region because they already had $3.8 million to work with that, was there from the previous. Now, we get part of that money back. Orange did get, I think, about $400,000 of that return, but the number is still in there. I'd like to see programs that offer some more technical services to some of the youth. Not everybody is going to be a professional person, whether it be a lawyer, an accountant, a teacher, whatever it may be. And I think that our enhancement should be, even in the Amity system, they have a beautiful garage system there, which isn't used to the ability that it could be. And that's an area that I really think some of our technical skills could be improved.
Dan, you have another minute if you'd like
Thank
to
you.
respond.
This is an area where Mr. Zioli and I are going to disagree. So to be sure, Mr. Zioli supports the orange representatives to the Amity Board of Education who are from the Republican Party voting against a 1% budget increase to our Amity Board of Education budget, which is a tremendous accomplishment by any measure in this economy. That your school budget, the cost you're paying to send your children to exceptional middle and high school, went up 1%. I know our candidates believe that education and public education in particular is critically important, and you have to invest in it, and you have to be genuine and clear with everyone about your intentions, particularly if the budget increase is only 1%.
Thank you. Next question, this is for Jim first. What plans do you have for economic development to attract commercial businesses that might fill some of the available retail space, as well as non-retail businesses, commercial or otherwise, that could help offset the tax burden for individuals?
First off, the reason it was a 1% increase was because of that $3.8 million, which is why they voted against it. Economic development is something that's very important to us. We have an outstanding economic development director, Anne Marie Sleiby. Our economic development department was started back in 1999 when the town was trying to ward off an apartment project, which ultimately won in court on Prindle Hill Road. I think that Anne Marie reports to me pretty much on a daily basis. We work with realtors, property owners, managers of multiple properties all the time. And currently your retail vacancy rate is 4.8%. The one that's listed on the site is listed at 5 point something, but the current rate, if you have the actuals, is 4.8. And we work at that. However, some of the hardest things to deal with are property owners and managers like Brixmore that owns Christmas Tree Plaza. They had opportunity to put a couple different really good businesses into that site. They had an opportunity, New England Brewing was looking at that site at one point, and Stu Leonard's. And the man sat right in my office with Anne Marie, and he said, well, we're not sure if Stu Leonard's would be the client that we would want in that plaza, is exactly what he said. I said, you don't have Clinton Crossings here. You're on Indian River Road in Orange. But that is still sitting there vacant. Then some of the other stores closed, on the border closed. But you work with these people. We have a tremendous amount of influx from one type of restaurant, and some people bemoan that. But these are hardworking people that are trying to make a living. But we don't have that much vacant space, and there's actually a big project in the works right now. Supposedly Brixmore is going to have something better for 26, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Great, thank you. Dan, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is critically important. I've already explained our priority around the structure. But let me give you two ideas that I think are relevant to your question. So for one thing, when I was on the board of the New Haven Innovation Collaborative, we worked with emerging industries in our region, like bioscience, tech. There are growing sectors around our region that I think we should be engaging very directly and specifically. And some of that might be just for office space. But we actually have a very low vacancy rate for office space. There could be, in fact, demand to have some high-quality office space in our community, perhaps outside of the city of New Haven. And of course, wouldn't those employees enjoy our fantastic school systems, open spaces, et cetera? The other thing that I think is really important is to support our existing businesses in new and innovative ways. So I actually have talked about these ideas with several people in the community when I'm connecting around what they see as vacancies across our community. And again, the vacancy rate has gone up significantly over the last couple of years. But we have to be creative. So for example, we could have an Asian restaurant week where we celebrate all of those cultures and those incredible destination restaurants all across our post road and celebrate them. This is what is a common practice in economic development because it makes sure customers are going to these businesses. Similarly, all of our developments not on the post road, we have a lot of farm businesses and a lot of industries within our community that obviously we're very proud of. It's part of our legacy. Let's do the farm trail. Let's celebrate that so that we have families moving throughout our town after lacrosse practice or after they go to Chips on a Saturday morning and explore and support our farmers. So those are a couple of, I think, smart, innovative, low-cost ways that we could really make sure that we're moving in a different direction when it comes to that retail vacancy rate issue in our town.
Great, thank you. And Jim, you have another minute to respond if you'd like.
Yeah, the Economic Development Corporation in '99 was charged with promotion of the park for potential developers, owners, and occupants of the park. That was where the apartment buildings were going. Then in 2000, promotion of the town to potential developers, owners, occupants of in the town, in particular biotech, high-tech use, to work with all agencies, departments of the government of the United States, state of Connecticut, and town in assisting business industry in particular. Make recommendations to the first selectman, the town, its boards and commissions to further promote living and working environment in which will enhance the possibility of success in the commercial industrial areas of the town. That's for that. That was signed on the 8th of June, 2000 by Mitch. So, I mean, we have a program that is identified with an economic development director and board that works currently for the town of Orange. And they're identified and they're a signed partner with the town. So we don't need to start another department. Done.
Great, thank you. This next question will be addressed to Dan. The recent POCD study, or the Plan of Conservation and Development, which I assume most people here are familiar with, it's a pretty involved thing. If you're not, it's basically a blueprint that's done every 10 years. It's an advisory plan. It's being updated in 2025 to guide the town's futures on growth in areas like land use, economic development, open space, and housing. The recent study recommends adding rental properties to align with the state goals for addressing the housing shortage. Currently, the vast majority of housing in Orange is owner-occupied, with most residents living in detached single-family dwellings. So the question is this: can you discuss how you would address the balance between creating more housing opportunities to align with the state goals and still maintain the suburban nature of the town?
Everybody reads the POCD every night, you know that, right? So this is actually something I do talk about a lot with people, because housing affordability is something that hits everybody's wallet. After childcare, housing is the number 2 thing that a family is working to pay for on a given month. The median sale price for a house in Orange, hold on to your seats, is $600,000. So I want to start with that for a second, because, well, I would say having to earn enough money to afford a $600,000 house is changing the character of our town. That's not a starter home price for a teacher. That's not a starter home price for a nurse. That's not a starter home price for a bus driver. So I do believe that we should join the rest of our state and make sure that we're aggressively pursuing the right type of housing options for our community. So the Firelight Plaza is an excellent example, and I appreciate this administration for getting it done. It has retail on the bottom, but the rentals on the top are what went quickest. They were all sold out. And the POCD does call for more development like that on the Post Road, which I think is a smart idea. The other thing I hear a lot about from folks is multi-generational living. I've met so many families who move to Orange because the yards are bigger and the houses are bigger, and so my mom can live with me. And that's so important, I think, to having a strong community. I'm perfectly comfortable with that being the case and open to looking into solutions to make that even more possible for families in our community. And I'll just say, I think I have a second here. You know, one other thing to consider again is that this is all connected to economic development, right? If we can make sure we're building new properties in our community, commercial, mixed residential, that adds to our tax base, diversifies our revenue, and helps make Orange more affordable from a property tax standpoint.
Great, thank you. Jim, same question. I don't know if you want me to repeat? Or?
No, I got this.
Okay.
It's a very difficult balance to walk. There isn't that much land that people think in our town of 11,000 acres, 17 and a half square miles, to support more large developments. Plus, those developments where you're talking with a higher density, like Firelight, they need to be in an area where there are sewers, number one, because our soil types are not conducive to this. We don't have large gravel deposits. You also need to be near infrastructure. A lot of these people are using mass transit, shopping, higher electricity. They need demand if they're working from home and all. And these buildings that are being built to do this need to support a lot of people. Firelight is 73 apartments. They all rent it out in 10 weeks. And they rent anywhere from a little over $2,000 to $3,800 a month. to live there, and there's a waiting list at this point. The town worked really hard every time there was a small development coming in, and this started before me, before Mitch, getting a few affordable assigned with each project. And after the project was done on Smith Farm Road, which wanted to be built on the Post Road, and I was opposed to that, and they went to Smith Farm Road and they built their project, we were able to achieve a 4-year moratorium as the POCD was being done, which helps us with that, but there just are areas where you need to be very careful. I mean, I know a young couple right now, they're building a 2,200 square foot house, and they've borrowed $550,000 to build it, and they already own the land. So, I mean, construction costs and land costs in our area are prohibitive to think that you're going to get small or very reasonable type of housing, because the builders need value.
Thanks. And
I'll
Dan,
just add,
another minute.
one question that does come up when I speak with people about this is about our schools. So I just want to hit it head on. If we do end up adding housing into areas of our community where there are young families with kids are moving in, then I'm very comfortable as your first selectman making sure we have a plan for that and we tackle that challenge head on. I do not think that we should sweep that issue under the rug. We should just, if we have an issue about schools being too crowded or challenges around that with new housing stock, I'm comfortable approaching that. That's been the track record of my career, making sure that we don't avoid these tricky issues. And in fact, this is another example where I think my approach to leading our town is that we would all be involved in that process. And I would be transparent and open with you all about what that might entail, what that might require, and we would have to seek your input before we made any decisions.
Okay, thank you. This next question would be Jim first, and it relates to zoning, and there's actually 3 questions within the question, so I'm going to allow for 3 minutes each. We'll still have the 1-minute rebuttal, but if necessary, I want to expand it because it might take a little more time to answer, since it's really a 3-question, but all related to zoning. And I'm going to ask them all together. So Jim, this is for you first. The first one actually relates to the prior 2 subjects that we just touched on. What are your thoughts on potential zoning changes allowing for alternate use of some of the retail space, possibly converting some of them to residential rentals? The second 2 questions are really more related to the consumer. What is your opinion on the need for zoning code revisions to allow homeowners more flexibility to make minor changes to their property more easily, like changes to sheds or garages? And the last one is, can you discuss your views on the current zoning laws prohibiting short-term rentals? And this would really specifically relate to something like Airbnb.
The first one, I am not convinced of having housing directly on the Post Road. And the reason for that is school buses stopping on the Post Road and children playing on the Post Road. 80 years ago, the Post Road was a residential street 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. But it's not a residential street anymore. It could be dangerous, and it could open you up to problems. The traffic doesn't stop for the school buses. We hear these complaints from the school bus operators repeatedly of people going through the lights. Well, you know what? What happens if there's a child out there that's crossing, thinks they're safe or something? They're going to be run right over on the Post Road. They don't slow down. Besides the fact that we have those posses of motorcycles and quads and stuff that the selectmen are trying to address that at our next meeting with an ordinance. With regards to the second part, what was the second part?
That was about your opinion on making revisions to the
Yes.
zoning code to allow
Okay.
minor changes.
Yep. They can't, because then we end up in neighbor disputes, and they don't understand why the zoning department can't help them sometimes, and these end up being civil suits. That's why you have the setback laws and all for sheds and all. Otherwise, you'll have people, just like you were in a more urban area, building their sheds or they're adding onto their garage or their home right up to a boundary line or within a boundary line. It's not a good thing. We have the viewpoint system, which all our departments cover on. Once somebody submits a plan on that viewpoint system, all departments have to review it and sign off on it before it moves forward. It's really a very easy system. It is not a difficult system to do. For commercial development, we have plan review meetings with all the departments prior to submission. We did this with UI. They had 13 meetings for one of their facilities, and then they had 2 meetings in wetlands and 2 meetings in zoning for each of the buildings when they did it, because all of the ducks had been put in a row prior to submission. The third part?
Was about changing the law that prohibits short-term rentals. It's
Absolutely, that one's a nightmare. That woman that was dealing with that on Ridgeview it was very unfortunate. That was an outside real estate investor from Ellsworth Avenue in New Haven, purchased that property. They have other properties elsewhere, and they used a story to get around it. But they were renting that house 4 days at a clip for like $4,100 for every 4 days. That's unacceptable, and it's not something that's a good fit for the town of Orange.
Okay. Dan, again, 3 minutes, and
I
do
got
you want me
it.
to repeat?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So I mentioned in my opening remarks that I've been recruited many times to lead organizations through change. What I didn't say is that many times that change was that a longtime leader had retired. And so I'm very used to this situation where community members have wanted something for a long time or requested something for a long time, and every time been told, no, not yet, never. So my first approach, again, my core value is of service. I believe that requires an enormous amount of listening and accountability and respect. So to answer your question, after I've gotten that preamble out of the way, I'm open to those first 2 items if the community is interested in that, right? This is not just up to me and my decision and my opinion. We do have a housing shortage in our state and in our community. The POCD already calls for more units like the Firelight Plaza on the Post Road. And to your point, it could require converting certain buildings that are there into something that they are not. We've seen that at other communities where a retail property owner will build apartments on top of their standing unit. That is good for our tax base. That could be good for the housing issue. But again, that comes from the process we would all go through as a community to make those changes. Secondly, I've heard a little bit of issues around town about wanting to make minor changes. Some people have an excellent experience working through our departments for that, and some people less so. So again, I'm open to standardizing some of those options so that it's more straightforward, plug and play, less controversy, less favoritism, just to make sure you can make minor improvements to your home. But I want to spend most of our time on this last one because this requires a little bit of fact checking. So our town does not currently restrict short-term rentals in the strongest way that it could. I'll say that one more time. Our town does not restrict short-term rentals like Airbnb and Vrbo right now. The state has provided a law to allow towns to restrict short-term rentals. And I say restrict because it could be a range of options. And I've heard from people who have short-term rentals in our community or have them elsewhere that they're open to looking at the range of options to make sure that it's very clear what is and isn't allowed. Because the bottom line about this issue is safety. Safety first and foremost. It is not safe to have more people renting your home when it's not permitted or has the appropriate sewage for that. It's not safe for you to have parties at all hours of the night in your home. But I am very supportive of having a clear regulation on the books concerning short-term rentals. I think this is an emerging issue that's only going to keep coming until we tackle it head-on.
Great, thank you. Jim, you have a minute to rebut if you have anything to add.
Well, it's fortunate that I'm not on the zoning commission. Dan wouldn't be on the zoning commission. Luckily, we have an elected zoning commission that has to deal with those issues. And I think the regulations as they are, and they've reviewed them, and through the POCD, they're reviewing more. But those guidelines are there for the community that you chose to move to. And then you want to change it so that it's more convenient for you to have your shed closer to your neighbor, or so that you can have a short-term rental or something. That's unacceptable. The zoning commission is currently working on reviewing new regulations towards the short-term rental issue also. So I commend our zoning commission. It's not an easy task that they're taking on, but it is being addressed, and we have an elected board that does that.
Great, thank you. Dan, this next question is for you first. Do you feel that the town could benefit from exploring alternative energy sources such as solar? If yes, why, and how would you approach next steps? And if you don't agree, please explain why not.
Yes. I think this is critically important, certainly for our environment. I think it's aligned that we would have more green initiatives in our community based on our agricultural history, taking care of our planet, taking care of our land and air. Secondly, there's an economic benefit here. In the long run, most of these green and some types of energy-saving initiatives save the town money, just like in your own household, right? We don't have incandescent bulbs anymore, right? It's 2025. So 2 ideas that I think are really helpful and important to think about. One just happened at Amity the other day, where they're in the process of installing a solar canopy. I don't know if you saw that, but it's going to go over some of the parking areas, no cost to the Amity School District, $80,000 a year in annual savings. That's $80,000 that could be allocated to something else in the Amity school budget. So good for the environment, very smart for the budget. Secondly, and I commend the recycling committee for getting this done, the town now has composting bins at the top of the transfer station, which saves us an enormous amount of money because it costs half as much to move that food waste as it does to move garbage out of the dumpsters there. I actually think we could expand on that. Many communities have applied. I know Woodbridge is actively applying for federal and state grants to expand some of their composting initiatives so that it would be even more cost effective. And again, it benefits the environment just the same. All set.
Great. Jim, same question?
Well, we're working on getting some EV stations installed in a couple locations to start through one of the UI programs. There'll be at the town hall, the community center. I think that's a good thing. We're also talking with installation of those solar roofs at High Plains on the new it will be a new parking lot that's getting paved behind by the tennis courts. That's the only one we have that's really wide open over there that doesn't have trees in multiple spots. But we're looking at that one for the solar canopies. We also looked at it for the police station, but they have, unfortunately, too many trees along the baseball side because they planted a lot of trees to stop the baseballs from the ball field from breaking windows on the cars. But, so we are looking at a bunch of these initiatives. They are important. They do offer savings, but they by themselves are not the panacea to save for all. But there are opportunities to improve and have some green initiatives. As far as our recycling committee, they do a great job. I think it's really important what they do, and I've been proud to work with Mitch and his team on a bunch of these. The one that I think is the best, I started when I first got in, was cardboard goes to Marcus Paper. Steve Zamkoff was the first initiative, which was great, but the most important one to me that takes the most tonnage out is glass. And Mitch and I chased that for years. And finally we got Urban Mining up in Beacon Falls takes the glass. And it's amazing how much glass we accumulate every week or two down there. There's a lot of wine bottles in there. But it's tonnage. That's real tonnage. The cardboard and the glass are the real tonnage that adds up in our MSW. So I'm very glad to work with them and make that all come to be, and it does save us in the long run.
Great, thanks. And Dan, you have a minute if you'd like to rebut?
Yeah, I just want to put one clear-footed answer out there on this. One issue that is going to face us over the next 2 years concerning green initiatives is we may have missed the boat over the last 20 years on some of the best tax incentives and some of the best grant programs out there. So again, once the grants are rolled up and excused from our tax law or disappeared from the federal government, we can't apply for them anymore. So I regret that that's the case. It doesn't mean I'm less committed at all to moving these initiatives forward in a financially reasonable way, but I just want to acknowledge that over the last 20 years, we have not applied for and received enough grants to really make a difference from our values perspective or from a budget perspective.
Great, thank you. This next question, Jim first. Do you feel that the town would benefit from converting private open space into dedicated open space owned by the town or a land trust? If not, why? And if yes, how would you plan to fund those purchases?
Well, we've been doing that right along. I think I, fortunately, due to my upbringing, have better connections with any landowners in the town of Orange than anybody else. And we've been very fortunate in expanding our open space purchases. We're currently having discussions with a property owner right now about a piece that adjoins others. However, the Board of Selectmen also endorsed one that the development rights were purchased by the state of Connecticut, the Department of Agriculture, and the property then will always be farmland, and the town of Orange only had to spend $41,000 for that deal, not $400,000. So there's other options with that, but I find it very important, and there still are some parcels that the town really wants to consider, but you have to have willing property owners. I've tried for one for several years. It's owned by some people down in Washington, D.C. They talk a great game, but they won't commit. Then you have a beautiful one on Wheelers Farms Road that the property owner was very anxious to commit. And that is preserved now, that beautiful view when you turn into Wheelers Farms Road off of Derby Milford and go a couple hundred feet. And the Lesniak family wanted to make sure that that was preserved forever and ever. But the better part of it is, it touches the Housatonic Overlook property, so you took 72 acres, I think we already owned, and you added another 15 to it, I believe. So we were able to expand with parcels that connect, which helps the environment, helps all of us, and it helps with runoff drainage. It keeps everything good for the whole community.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Dan, same
Well,
question.
again, the availability of open space is one of the many reasons why we chose to move to this community. We love using the trails, we love the agricultural properties. I think, to your exact question, I'm open to the idea of acquiring more open space. I think, Mr. Zoli, you've done an incredible job in your 20 years doing that. But two concerns that I've heard about that I do want to be more aggressive about. One of them is invasive species. I've heard from many residents who use the trails that there's a lot of invasive species coming into some of our town-owned parks and trails, and that impacts not only the natural habitat, but also the animal life that we so value, I think, in those areas. So I'd really want to make sure we work collaboratively with our volunteer groups, with our commissions, and with the state to make sure we're bringing down those dollars to pay for those remediation projects. That is something that the state does want towns to do, and they're willing to pay for those projects. Secondly, one of our top priorities is finally moving the renovation forward at Fred Wolf Park. So it's really just not enough to purchase the space. We've done that, especially in this area. I think it's really important, and I know from residents of all ages, it's about time we develop this one. Perhaps not all the other ones, but this one has been due for an upgrade. And if you haven't seen the plan, I want to make sure you understand that it is imagined to be a multi-purpose park for every generation. Right now, it's primarily used by kids that are my kids' age and younger. But once we add walking trails and pickleball courts and other amenities, it'll be for everyone. But again, to your question, the most important thing about this project is that most of it's going to remain as it is. And we really need to make sure that the habitat around that park is maintained, invasives are removed, so we have this really a beacon of our community for generations to come.
Thank you. And Jim, you have a minute if you'd like to add to anything?
That's the problem with leaving land open. Once it goes out of being controlled by a farmer, that whether it maintains it for hay crops or livestock, it will grow to weeds. If you're talking about something that's an invasive like dodder isn't really a major invasive. It grows up, it's a parasite that grows with no roots on plants. It's been a cry of need up at Turkey Hill Preserve, but it dies out. Once you mow off, it dies out, it'll come back. Eventually, we had some on our farm, it goes away. As far as Wolf Park, there's a new engineering firm. They have a plan, I think, is being presented, I think, this week. Everybody's welcome to go to that. The first engineering plan that was done years ago was unfortunately in some areas a dismal failure. And most of the good property at that park is slated to be used at some point or another. The areas that aren't being used are areas that are either very close to neighbors or wetland areas.
The next question is for Dan. I think you probably both touched on this a little bit, but it's a good follow-up to that. What upgrades or expansion plans would you have for the town's parks and recreational facilities, and how would those be funded?
Excellent question. So to speak a little bit more about what is currently happening at Fred Wolf Park, as Mr. Sealy mentioned, there's a meeting this Thursday night at 6:30 at the community center. It's the very last meeting of a master plan process, which we've been going through for a number of years. And again, just to explain what that means, this is a community process. There have been dozens and dozens, really probably hundreds, of residents who've contributed their ideas, concerns, aspirations into this plan. Once the master plan has been adopted by the Board of Selectmen, you are then able to go out and apply aggressively for state and federal grants, even private grants, to help move the project along. The biggest issue right now at Fred Wolf Park is that it's not safe. If you've driven in and you don't have a four-wheel drive car, you will struggle to get through. I know that there's been some paving done, it's just not enough. You would struggle to find a parking spot because it's a maze with everybody parking wherever they choose to park. I've met so many residents who haven't been to Fred Wolf Park in years because they don't want to go. They're nervous about going. They're nervous to see their grandkids play soccer or lacrosse or go to the playground. So our commitment, which is very firm and outlined in our plans, is that we've got to do the very first phase. This is a 5-part plan the consultants are putting together. The very first phase is really about safety. Let's make sure the parking areas are safe for cars. Let's make sure that area is safe for kids who are running around and enjoying the area. And then let's build a road around the entire park. That's what opens up the park to the future development that I believe we can apply for and receive grant funding for. But again, it's also what makes the park safe because the police will be able to patrol the park on a regular basis and make sure that that neighborhood is not disproportionately harmed by that open space being such a recreational beacon.
Great, thank you. Jim, the same question?
Repeat it, please.
It's what upgrades or expansion plans would you have for the town's parks and recreational facilities, and how would these be funded?
I think there's quite a few. There's other things besides Wolf Park, too. I think Old Tavern Road still needs some improvements. Little League has done a good job there. The Board of Selectmen just approved some repair work at some of the ball fields there that was in dire need. I think that even at High Plains, they have some courts and things that need to be replaced. They replaced the tennis courts there with those stressed concrete tennis courts there, but there's a couple other courts there that are in dire need of repair. There's a ball field down in back that could use some better maintenance. Then you get to things like the Weppawag Trail, where there's maintenance of some of those is only fair. The Racebrook Tract, I'd like to see them do some more improvements over there, where there was an arboretum there that unfortunately was planted, but you need different equipment to maintain some of these areas. We have a lot of areas already existing that need work done to them. And building a whole new facility, there are some things that are needed over there, and some of them would have been done, but it was, the direction of the process was changed, and so they weren't done. But I think that we need to look at a lot of properties, not just Fred Wolf Park, because there's many different groups that use many different areas around town, and it goes beyond just Fred Wolf Park.
Great, thank you. And Dan, you have one more minute,
Thanks.
if you'd like.
So I mentioned a little bit about the community-led process that has come to the Fred Wolf Park Master Plan, but I want to talk a little bit more about your involvement in the financing that we're proposing to do for that first phase. Our town has a AAA bond rating. That is like you're having an amazing credit score and being able to get a very good loan to buy a car or a house. That is a tool that most towns use to pay for projects this first phase, because taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for it all at once in one annual budget. You should phase it out over the lifespan of the renovation. That parking area and that road is going to be enjoyed by families for generations, coming to enjoy recreational time together and for a community to come together. So our AAA bond rating is there to be used, and I suggest we use a bond to do it. Oh, I'm sorry, the point of this rebuttal was everybody gets to vote on bonds in our town. If you disagree that we shouldn't spend a bond to do that first phase of the project, I'd encourage you to vote no when it's on the budget referendum. If you do think it's a good idea, I'd encourage you to vote yes. Easy as that.
Thank you. This to Jim first. Could you please discuss plans, if any, for obviously continuing, but or expanding affordable public services and programs specifically for the senior population in Orange?
Expanding the public services. I would love to know a little bit more about exactly what the desire is. I mean, we have programs available through our community service department that offer fuel assistance, energy assistance, food pantry, shopping, doctor visits. We run, I think, 2 vans and 3 buses on a daily basis for transportation. We have volunteers through the job bank that can help seniors sometimes with yard work and things along that line. The pool, the fitness center. I think that seniors, they need to say more about, I'll be quite honest with you, it's not something that comes across our desk. The biggest thing that comes across is looking for somebody to plow their driveway, shovel their snow, and more how to get into Silverbrook congregate housing. Those are probably the biggest calls that we get. The Board of Finance years ago tried to do a bulky waste pickup. It was over $100,000, but the trouble is the people that really needed it couldn't get the stuff out of their houses to the curb. You know, we have some seniors with old worn out washing machines or a refrigerator in their garage or something, but then they needed help with that. So they need to go to community services as the arm that handles that in order to be aware of what they're looking for help. They may talk about it when you knock on their door, but they got to go to community services. That's the department that handles that situation. That's why we have a senior center with the director there, Dennis, and Stacy, and with the job they do. Done.
Thank you. Dan, same question?
Thank you. So one of the things I've noticed in speaking with residents is that they're not all aware of the exceptional services we provide to seniors in our community. So many do, but I firmly believe one of the things we've got to do is better sell it. Right, I mentioned there's a lot of families moving to our community because the houses are a little bit bigger and your parent can age with you at home. But they're not aware that they could get low-cost rides or that our senior center has. I hear a lot about the chair exercise classes, everybody. Most popular thing, and people come from across the region to come to our chair exercise classes. So I think we could sell that further. Also, if I might, take a point of privilege, I regret to share the passing of one of my mentors, Bitsy Clark, who was my predecessor at the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, who also was the executive director at Home Haven, which is an organization in our community I'm sure many of you are part of, but it helps retirees age at home. And I know there are a lot of retirees in our community who want to age at home. So perhaps we could connect the dots a little bit more to services that are in our community, to our seniors. But to be honest, the number one thing I hear from seniors is housing. They're struggling to afford to continue to live in their house. They want to stay in this community and they don't know where to go. And I do think that's something we've got to tackle head on. They're not able to afford to live in some of the places and they make too much to afford to live in other places. So there's a missing middle here when it comes to senior housing in our community that I think we should consider. And then lastly, one of the things as a young parent in our community, I would love to create more opportunities to connect the generations together. We have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 generations of families living in our town. And anything we could do to bridge what our young people and what our elders are doing together would be so valuable. The crisis of loneliness does not just hit young people. It hits our seniors and elders as well. And I would love to see how, as a town, I think that's what our local government could be best at doing, is bringing us all together regardless of your age.
Jim, you have another minute if you'd like to.
I think one of our toughest populations, without a doubt, and I'm looking at a couple of them, are, I want to stay in my home. And I think that the majority of these seniors want to stay in their home. However, sometimes there is resistance to letting people in to help. I know that I sent Denise Stein to one that I know needs help. She opened the door this much. I'm fine, I'm okay, thank you very much. No, I don't need anything. Boom, shuts the door. You know, so that's a very tough sell. Our senior center does a great job, and they do offer a lot of programs, but I think our toughest population in the town of Orange is our senior group. They are the people who lived through the World War, they lived through the Korean War, Vietnam War. They are strongly independent individuals. And I think that, and I have great respect for that, but lead a horse to water, can't make them drink. They don't want to move out of their houses, the majority of them. Very, very few. Done.
We're starting to run late. We'll try to get a couple of more questions, and I know there were a few submitted from the floor. I don't think we'll be able to get them all in, but this one is for Dan. In your opinion, how should technology be leveraged to best prepare Orange for current and future challenges?
Excellent question. It's something that I have in my career implemented many times. There's often outdated systems, simple fixes that are right in front of our noses that would help make an organization more effective and more efficient. One that we're proposing is bringing something called Orange Connect, that we're calling Orange Connect, into our town. It's a 211 or 311 or a C-click fix-like system, so it's going to make it so much easier for every resident, regardless of your age, to identify an issue you see in the community, report it quickly, and just get it done. A very specific example. Over the summer, I met somebody who swims at the town pool multiple times a week. And the first thing she wanted to say to us is that there's a leaky faucet. That's what small town issues are all about. She said, I don't know who to call, I don't know what to do. What is my best bet? And I wish I could have said to her, we have this amazing system where you could either call or go on this website and just snap a photo of that leaky faucet. That would then get automatically logged into the system within Town Hall. It would get sent right to the right department, and then it would get updates every time something changes. Right now what happens oftentimes is people call or they get tossed around and they don't know what is happening with the request they made. I think in 2025 we expect better customer service from every organization we work with, and we should expect that from our town too. And again, this is a solution that is actually already built into our town website. We just have to turn it on. And so I'm very excited to turn that on, educate residents of all ages and backgrounds on how to use it. And let me just connect it to the budget again. If we can fix small issues before they become big, expensive ones, that's a smart use of all of our resources, and it's a smart use of our time. And most importantly, to my values, it's the respect that all of our residents deserve, and our staff in Town Hall.
Jim, same question?
See, click, fix. How about you walk out of the pool and up to the Park and Rec office and tell them you got a leaky faucet down there? I mean, I don't understand that. In order to put this software system in, it's going to have to go somewhere. It's going to have to be managed and overseen by somebody who directs it to the appropriate departments. It's another layer of spending money. While the younger people maybe are all tech savvy, a lot of the people are not. And you call a department. You can call the Lambert Road to Public Works. You can walk up, if you're in the pool, to the Park and Rec office. You can walk to the senior office if you're in the building there, or call in and speak to Jen Hudson if you need a bus ride or transportation or something. This is what makes Orange a community. You call, you talk to people, not see, click, fix. You talk to people, you have an issue, and you talk to them, and they'll work with you to straighten it out. Not everything is, I make it sound very easy, but that's why we have a payroll. That's why we have employees. That's why we have 5 bargaining units, because we have employees that are supposed to be doing these things. And if a person doesn't know enough that they can't call the park office or call seniors or call my office or call the town clerk, can't fix it. There ain't no see, click, or fix for that. I'm done.
Dan, you have one more minute if you'd like.
Yeah, this is another area where me and Mr. Zioli definitely disagree. Mr. Zioli does not want to have a system like this that will make our town hall more effective and efficient and treat all of our residents with that respect. It doesn't matter what age you are. Everybody has a smartphone these days. Everybody is short on time. Nobody has time to waste. And I want to underscore one thing that he did say. Even our town employees should not be wasting time with everybody getting a different request for a leaky faucet and all trying to handle it at once. In current organizations, in current business environments, you have to leverage and utilize smart technology. This is not new technology. It's been around for way more than a decade. I'm not suggesting something in Orange Connect that is not being used in small towns like ours across the country. So I really hope you understand the difference between us on the position there.
Great, thank you. The time is running late, so we're going to wrap up now to end the question session of this evening, and I apologize to those who submitted questions and we weren't able to get to them. We really tried, but as you can tell, we had a very full level of questions, and I hope you found it very informative and engaging. But right now, we're going to move to the final closing remarks, and as mentioned at the beginning of our session, with the coin flip, won by Mr. Zioli, he chose to go last on closing remarks. So Mr. Fitzmaurice now will have 3 minutes for closing remarks.
Thanks, Mr. Michelson, and thank you again to the Shalom Men's Club and really this very full room of folks who came together tonight on a Sunday evening. I hope I've made it abundantly clear that I'm ready and excited to lead our town forward as your next first selectman. I'll take this responsibility seriously every single day because the future of this town is personal to me. Again, Orange is our home. I'm raising our family here. It's not just another job. I'm not trying to make a name for myself. I'll stop at nothing to make sure that our town grows stronger and stronger over the next 2 years. But tonight's discussion confirmed what I think a lot of people already know. It's time for change. Tonight's discussion from Mr. Zioli, despite his long record of service, which I respect, has shown that his leadership has grown comfortable, not proactive. It's defensive, not open. I think he represents the past, and I'm here to represent the future. We can and we will strengthen our town without raising taxes on our homeowners year after year. We can modernize without losing that small town feeling that we all love. We can invest in what matters to each and every one of you without overspending. So here's my promise to you. As your next first selectman, I will always lead with openness, accountability, and respect. I hope you've seen that on display tonight. And please know that if you want to get to know me better or if you have any questions, I'm here. I'll listen, I'll respond, online, in a text. My number is 203-710-2966. I'm committed to working with everyone in this town to move it forward, no matter what your political party is or how long you've lived here. And if you believe in that, then I humbly ask for your vote. Together, I know we can keep Orange the town we all love and make it stronger than ever.
Thank you. Mr. Zioli, you have 3 minutes for your closing remarks.
I value the town of Orange deeply. I think my 66 years here has proven that. I think my 20 years as first selectman and on the Board of Selectmen before that has proven that. I think that there is a lot to know about the town, while you may call it comfortable, in order to run the town. And I think that comfortable comes because I've learned about the town of Orange, whether it be buying a dump truck, paving a road, helping a person with a problem, with a neighbor, any of these expenses. I think that while we work harder to support our merchants, it is mostly the young tech-savvy group that online shop. So as you see those vacancies on the post road, a lot of those vacancies are driven by online shopping. Simple as that. A lot of it, unless it's a specialty thing or a niche thing, they're driven by that one thing. You see Amazon trucks all around town, not just the ones that are cutting through from the distribution center. I see them at houses in town some days, every day. They're getting something. I know people who order their cat litter and groceries and hard goods and all, and every day there's a different truck in their yard. It's unbelievable. But you need to know the town of Orange and know its people for a while before you understand the town of Orange. And to be criticized for giving you a history lesson, as I was after the last debate, is unfortunate. But you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. Of course, I did enjoy some of the signs I saw around town. Keep Orange strong. Well, thank you. That's all I can say is thank you, because for 20 years I've been working to keep the town of Orange strong. I have no gain other than that. This is a town I was born in, that I value, and have lived here my entire life. I've buried my family out of this town. I understand this town deeply, and I ask for your support and your consideration to continue that direction and keep Orange fiscally responsible, great for everybody to live here, a great school system for people who want to move here, and I look forward to meeting all of these people. Do we look for different housing options? Do we look for business options? Of course we do. We have an existing economic development corporation. It was signed into law with different job duties in 2000 by Mitch, and it still is functioning excellent. Thank you all for sitting here tonight.
Well, that concludes our program. Thank you so much for coming. I want to thank our candidates, Mr. Fitzmaurice, Mr. Zioli. Thank you so much for your time and joining us tonight. And remember to get out and vote.